Hey everybody, Ben here from Cinderblock Studios, and today we're comparing two products, Mod Podge and Acrylic Gels. These are two very different products used for very different things, but we're looking at them in terms of fine arts. What are their applications for mixed media, and how can you use them in your own work? Stick around. So around 2010, I found on YouTube an artist by the name of Justin Vining. Now, he doesn't have a whole lot of YouTube subscribers, but he has a whole lot of business and a whole lot of followers elsewhere. He is an awesome, amazing professional artist from Indianapolis, and I love his stuff a lot. And one thing that I picked up from him was the technique of using paper in mixed media projects. Now, when I first saw a few of his videos, what he did is he took old notepads of his from college. They were yellow legal pads which he just scribbled notes on. And he took those and he put layers of Mod Podge and applied them to a canvas. And I found this super inspiring, so I started doing it myself with newspaper because, well, it's not that I didn't have college notes, it's just that I didn't really feel that they were up to the task of being in a painting. So I started using newspaper, I started using book pages, really whatever I could get my hands on. But I didn't have Mod Podge, which is interesting because this is readily available at literally every craft store everywhere, and it's dirt cheap. But what I did have, of course, because, you know, it's me, I had the more expensive variety of adhesion things in terms of acrylic gels. Acrylic gels, Mod Podge, this is a very big price gap here, but I just started working with what I had, and granted what I had was some pretty high quality stuff at the time. So now that it's a few years down the road, I went and picked up the gloss and the matte versions of Mod Podge to see, okay, let's go back to this technique. Let's see if there is something different about Mod Podge in comparison to an acrylic gel. And what I found is, yeah, there's a difference. So today I'm demoing the matte and the gloss versions of the Mod Podge, as well as a regular gel matte and a soft gel gloss from Golden. And we're going to be looking at adhesion, we're going to be looking at applications for mixed media, as well as layering on top of them. There's a lot of things going on here. We're talking about a lot about different price points and things for fine artists. But I feel like this is a good demo to do because it's really going to cut across two very accessible mediums, but also two very accessible and very different price points. Now, I do want to note, before we get to the demo, that in a similar way that my craft paint versus professional acrylics video, which went up last month, this is sort of another similar thing where these products technically are not designed for fine art. They're used for fine art by a lot of artists, and a lot of artists I admire, actually. But they're not specifically designed for fine art. They don't have the same archival quality that something like an acrylic gel would. So, yes, I understand that's a difference. I'm not really going to talk about that difference because we're just looking at in terms of a project standpoint of, you're going to pick something up, should it be this, should it be this? Well, one, it depends on your budget, and two, it depends on how well things turn out here today. So let's go ahead and start demoing this. Okay, so as I mentioned already, I've got 4 different products we're going to be looking at today. We have matte Mod Podge, the gloss stuff, regular gel matte, and soft gel gloss. Couple things to note before we get started. These are very much a liquid consistency. They're very close to the soft gel gloss. The regular gel matte is a much higher viscosity, but that shouldn't be really a problem for what we're going to be testing today. I've also got 4 strips, roughly equal, of newspaper and a piece of plywood that we're going to be tacking them down with. Also have 2 different water vessels off to the side, one here and one here. 2 different things because 2 different mediums. I found in my initial tests a good month prior to this video even being recorded that this stuff and this stuff you don't really want to kind of mix up in your brushes and mix up with your water, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So to start things off, we have the matte version of the Mod Podge. Now this stuff is sort of the alternative. The gloss is probably what most people are thinking of. So I'm going to start out just kind of be laying some of that down on our surface. And right out of the gate, I can say that this stuff has a very distinct odor to it. It smells like a slightly I don't want to say more professional because it's, I mean, it's very simple, a very simple product, but it smells considerably like regular white school glue, something like Elmer's, for example. I'm going to apply that down, and what a lot of times I'm doing for the mixed media project, I'm applying it at the base as well as on top. That's all I'm going to do here, is just brush that on. Like that. It smells very, very similar to a regular glue. Now, one thing that you will actually find between the two products, which is why I have two different waters, is that as much as acrylics dry very, very fast, this stuff dries twice as fast as acrylic. It's really, really surprising, and I think it's because, you know, it's not a painting medium; it's a craft medium, or a craft product, so to speak. It's not really designed for canvas work. It's actually a little bit more liquid, I think, than the matte stuff. And the reason here is that it's basically just over-glorified glue. So for that reason, you're going to get really just a more liquidy viscosity here. Alright, we're going to take this one, go right on top. Boop. Obviously getting a little overlap here with the matte and the gloss, but this will become more pronounced when it dries. Adhesion looks pretty good. I will note that this is smooth and sanded wood. I did try to put the Mod Podge on canvas. Actually didn't adhere super well. Actually, halfway through a project, I was like, oh, I'm just going to use the Mod Podge for this project. Halfway through, I was like, yeah, no, I still got to grab the gel, because I think I found that the adhesion quality of the Mod Podge, at least for canvas usage, is a little bit more inferior. So I'm going to get most of that out of the brush, but I think I still want to rinse this because I still see a little bit of almost like a foam in here. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush out, grab some water, and then jump into these gels. So next up, I've got some regular gel matte. Now, as I mentioned before, this stuff quite a lot thicker. It's pretty similar to what you might get out of a heavy body paint, maybe even a little bit thicker than that. It's going to have a little more viscosity to it. The water that's in my brush right now is going to allow me to kind of spread it out a bit thinner. And just between the two, I already, like, it's not even a viscosity difference, but this feels almost stickier. Maybe that is a viscosity difference, I'm actually not sure. But I really just, you know, laying that down. Even the way it applies on the wood, it feels better. I mean, obviously, we're talking about the difference of this is like maybe $5, and this is maybe like $20, so pretty big cost difference here. So obviously there's a quality difference, but I really want to make note that the adhesion difference feels very, very similar. Now you're going to see this, as it dries, pick up a lot more gray. It's going to look very wet. This will do the exact same thing. So that's not going to be a real huge level of difference between the two products. Actually, didn't put enough down over there. Alright. That's our regular gel matte. And we have soft gel gloss, which, as I mentioned before, is going to be a very, very similar viscosity to the other stuff, maybe slightly thicker, but still pretty liquidy. Get a lot more coverage with a lower viscosity product, whether that be paint, whether that be medium, whether that be glue, whatever it happens to be. Again, we're not looking at these so much as a acrylic medium as much as we are at mixed media projects. So one thing I should note is that I would not mix these with acrylic paint whatsoever. Between the drying difference as well as the adhesion difference, I would not go ahead and mix like blue into this for whatever reason. I mean, you could try it, but I wouldn't recommend it. That's all I'm saying. Looking at adhesion, we're looking at surface prep. Okay, so I'm going to give this whole thing maybe about an hour to dry. It should really be all it needs. Again, the Mod Podge dries considerably quicker than regular acrylic. I'm working really fast right now because I know I need to. I did a few test runs of all 4 of these products side by side prior to this video. So I kind of had a general understanding of the speed I needed to work at. This dries faster, and also we're working on a relatively small scale. This is roughly like 6 by maybe 9 inches or something like that. So maybe 10, probably closer to 10. So this is a smaller scale. If you're working 11 by 14 or larger, you're gonna have to work really, really super fast with the Mod Podge. The acrylic gel, you will have to work fast, but probably not quite as fast. Or just work in sections, cut some paper, put it down, cut some paper, put it down, which is generally better for mixed media projects anyway. So, let me go ahead and clean my brush once more, give this some time to sit, and I will be back. Alright, so it's been, I think, like, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. It's late. This video goes up tomorrow. I don't know. It's close enough. So at this point, I kind of just want to look at general surface quality right now. So again, matte, gloss, Mod Podge gel. The glossiness seems to make the biggest difference with the thickness applied. I'm getting significant glossiness on this edge and on this edge, which seems weird because that's where the matte side is, but that's sort of just where everything was the thickest. So the thickest of the gloss soft gel shines, actually it's on the wood at this point, not so much in the paper. All the paper actually looks relatively similar. So you're looking at, between the matte and the gloss, a relatively similar sheen between each of them. So if you're going to compare the two side by side, just for gloss versus matte, they're very, very similar. Honestly, I honestly don't know if I could tell them apart if you didn't tell me otherwise. So I want to test a little bit just with different applications of materials here. Now again, we're not going directly into a painting. I know this is generally a painting channel, but if I'm using newspaper, if I'm using these products or these gels, chances are it's a mixed media project. I'm going to be using paper, I'm going to be using dry media, wet media, whatever I can kind of get my hands on. Now I should note that for most mixed media projects for me, that would include also a top layer of fine pumice gel, which has a sort of finish of what you might expect out of a very fine sandpaper. But I'm going to completely ignore that and just go with this relatively smooth surface that we've created today. So to start out, top layer, I'm just going to get, this is a chromium oxide green heavy body acrylic. I'm just going to do some strokes across the top of this. So super smooth application on the matte Mod Podge. Same deal with the gloss. Same deal with the matte gel. Same deal with the soft gel. Honestly, between all 3 of these, again, if you didn't tell me, I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference between the high quality acrylic and the sort of low cost crafty stuff. Here we have a woodless 6B pencil. Now, in most cases, any kind of dry media requires tooth to stick to a surface. A 6B in general, nice dark pencil, so, you know, whatever. Not really going to show up a whole heck of a lot, probably on any of these. Actually, what I just found is that the regular gel matte, which whatever matting agents that are in here, cause the pencil to show up significantly better. But again, just testing stuff out. I have a soft charcoal pencil. Again, I'm not expecting a whole heck of a lot here. Okay, this was actually a really interesting result. So the matte Mod Podge kind of resisted it a little bit. The gloss picked it up considerably more, as well as the matte acrylic gel, and the soft gel gloss is sort of in between. So that's kind of interesting. Something like watercolor, again, non-absorbent surface here, so mixed results, I'm sure. Need a little more color. This is some core bismuth vanadate yellow. applies pretty well. Let's check some lifting capabilities here. Lifts very well as in addition to, again, mixed media techniques. Any and all media you can get your hands on really varies here. Here's a Sharpie. Sharpies are good on most surfaces. A little bit more absorbency on the mat, but that's to be expected. And just for kicks, here's a Sennelier oil pastel, which I wouldn't expect to be an issue on any surface. A little bit of blending. Blending's actually considerably better, again, on the mat, which seems really weird. Like so. Those are just some examples of what media does on each of these surfaces. Again, that's matte, gloss, regular gel matte, soft gel gloss. Okay, so this is sort of a weird, middle-of-the-road kind of demo that you may or may not know what you should be taking away from this video. Well, of course, that's why I'm here, right? The biggest question to ask yourself here is the crafty glue Mod Podge a replacement for an acrylic gel? Well, it depends a bit on what you're doing, but honestly, I could say that this stuff, in a pinch, definitely could suffice. Mod Podge does have really great adhesion, though slightly inferior to the gel. Its both gloss and matte varieties are very versatile, as well as very receptive to different media. However, for an acrylic gel, you're looking at archival quality here, so longevity for your project, something that's going to last a considerable amount of time. Now, again, I haven't tested the Mod Podge super extensively, but you might be looking at things that may not necessarily be acid-free and might eat away at the paper over time. Not saying that's definitely going to happen, I'm just saying I don't know if it'll happen because this is kind of up in the air, not a whole lot of experience with this stuff. With an acrylic gel, you're also getting greater adhesion, but of course that does come at a cost. Again, we're talking about a difference of maybe, I can't remember what this was, maybe $5 or $6 versus probably close to $20 for a gel, depending on where you shop and depending on if you chase sales or not. So it's a fairly large difference. It's like an 80% increase over the Mod Podge. Now, would I mix it with paint? No, I would not. Mod Podge is a glue. It's great for adhesion. It's great for mixed media projects. I would not mix it with your acrylic paint. However, if you're looking for something that is very specifically for mixed media projects, I definitely recommend picking some of this stuff up. However, if you are thinking the fine art route, specifically super fine art, painting, canvas, if you're going to be mixing it with paint and making glazes, get an acrylic gel, whether that be a thick gel, a matte, a soft gel gloss, a heavy gel gloss, a glazing liquid, whatever it happens to be. If you're going to be mixing it into paint, get the acrylic gel. If you're going to be attaching things to canvas or wood, such as paper, bits of cloth, doing any kind of collage work, this stuff could be a much better option for you. Now, I know that you guys probably have a lot more experience with Mod Podge than I probably do. I'm very, very new to the medium, and I don't really know what I'm doing with it. That's kind of why I like this video, is because it was a lot more experimental. I was just trying to figure out what it does, and I'm in a lot of ways still trying to figure out what it does and how I can utilize it in my own work. If you have any suggestions for me, or you just kind of want to share your experience with the product, go ahead and talk about those in discussion and comments below. Consider supporting on Patreon if you're financially able to. Subscribe for more like this, and this has been from Cinderblock Studios. See you guys next time. My neck hurts, man. It's the downside to sitting at your desk a lot. Just your neck, just too young to be getting old. Sucks.